Hello everyone, my name is Saksham Dikshit and this is my channel Pentest Diary. So today I'll make another video on the same series of Solidity programming series, and in this video I'll try to cover the concept of fallback and the receive function itself. These are two functions, special function itself, which we have to use in a smart contract just to receive a data or to receive a data itself, data and the ethers, both the things we can get it received with that. So why we require the fallback, why we require the receive function instead of the smart contract, I'll try to cover both the concept over here itself. We just divide this whole video itself in two parts. One is a theory part and one is a practical section for it. In the theory part I'll try to cover the concept behind it, why we required that, and the practical section will see that actually how exactly it's happening in a smart, like how exactly it's help us in smart contract when we're writing a smart contract efficient code for it. So if we're talking about the theory part itself, so in Solidity, fallback and the receive are the special function related to the handling of ether transaction in a smart contract. Fallback function, if we're talking about in earlier version of the Solidity, a function marked as fallback is executed when a contract receive a message that does not match any of its function signatures, or when a contract receive ether without any accompanying data. It's essentially a catch-all function. So I'll just mention what exactly is it, the fallback function. So whenever there is a call where we have to receive a ether or we have to receive a data, both the things at the same time, or we are receiving a data itself, then in that case we are talking about only the fallback function itself. If we have the fallback function, we can do that, we can achieve with this itself. If you're not having it, then in that case it's creating a problem for a smart contract. Okay, now talking about the receiver function. So if we're talking about this receiver function, starting from the Solidity version 0.6.0, a new feature called the receive function was introduced. This function is similar to the fallback function, but it's only triggered when a contract receive ether without any data. If a contract had received function, it cannot have a fallback function. So what exactly it means, if we are sending only ether itself to the smart contract, then in that case receiver will work it over there itself. But if you're sending along with ether, you're sending some data also, no, then in that case a receive function will not work over there itself. So make sure when you're sending, like if you are using fallback function or you're receiving function, you should be aware about it, what type of thing you are, what type of action you're trying to get it perform. Is it a data you're trying to pass or a ether? If you're trying to pass both the things, then in that case fallback is a better option, and if you want to send only the ether, then receive is the better option for it. Now proceeding further, it is important to note that in the latest version of the Solidity 0.8.0, using the receive and the fallback function directly discourage, and instead you should use explicit function definition. For example, you might want to use a receive for receiving ether and have separate function for other functionality, like example fallback. Here whatever the task performed by the receiver function can be handled by the fallback function. That's one of the thing. But in reverse itself, we're talking about, like if we don't have the fallback function, can we achieve the same thing with receiver function? No, that's not possible. So fallback function can handle data and ether, both the things. But if you're talking about the receive function, it can handle only the ether, not anything else. If you have to transfer a data, no, receive function you cannot be utilized, but the fallback function can be utilized even if we don't have the receive function in place. Now a few other key points which we have to be we should be aware about it. So in case of fallback function, it is executed when a non-existence function is called on the contract. It is required to be marked external. It has no name. Make sure that there is no name defined for that fallback or receive function. There is no argument. It cannot return anything. We can't get anything out of it. Like there's nothing like it's not looks like a function itself where we are returning something out of it. It cannot return anything. It can be defined only once in one contract itself. And if you marked payable, that's also most important. Like if you want to send ether to the smart contract using a fallback or a receive, then in that case, in both the cases, you have to make it there as a payable. Otherwise you can't receive it. You can't receive the ether, as we have already discussed in a payable section itself. If you are not make it there as a payable, then in that case you can't use that. You can't utilize that fallback and the receive function if you're not using a payable keyword over there itself. You can't receive that. Okay, and its main use to directly send the ether to the contract itself. That's understood. So now it's a similar type of thing, but fallback having more functionality as comparison to the receive function itself. So if we are comparing both the things at the same time, then definitely fallback is having more things which we can do it with the fallback. But if talking about the receive function, it's having a limitation with receiving only the ether. But if the priority wise, if we want to talk about it, like if you want to transfer ether, and if we have both the things over there itself, receiver is the first priority for it, just to send that data for ether itself. But if you want to send the data, then in that case fallback is the first priority for it. So let me go to the system now and show you that how exactly the things with the code itself, and then we can conclude it where exactly and what's the need of it and how exactly we can utilize that in a smart contract to make it efficient. So proceeding further with the practical section for it, this is the code for the fallback and the receive function itself. Okay, this is the straightforward syntax which we are using in all our code. We are defining a name of the contract is fall_receive. Now why we are requiring this, just you are aware about it, event one of the video I have already covered, where we want to emit something, just to write something on a blockchain, then we are using this event. Now this is the fallback and this is a receive. Okay, so we'll start with the fallback itself. I have already told you about it. As we are receiving ether, we have to use the payable keyword. We are making this external, like by default we have to make this external only when we are using a fallback or the receive itself. We have to make this external. Okay, now we are emit it. So emit it just to write that on a blockchain itself. So that was the reason we are using this event and the emit. So what are the things we are trying to cover in the event itself? So this is the name of the event which we are making it. We are trying to pass first as a string itself. Okay, that we call it as underscore message. Now we are talking about the address which we call it as a sender. Okay, now we're talking about the content itself, which we're talking of, like the value is it, like how many ether is we are trying to get it pass. And last one is a bytes, where the information is it. So information in the context like data itself, which we want to transfer it. So if we're talking about the fallback section for it, so emit test is the event function itself which you're using it. Now this is the content which we are trying to pass as a string itself. This is the msg.sender, the address of like through which we are trying to we are deploying that, or we are sending that the value to our contract itself. That was one of the thing. Other than that, how much the value of the ether and the data itself, what exactly the data we're trying to get it passed with that. Now if we're talking about the next section, which is the receive one, then in that case you can able to see we have to make it this external, as obvious. We have to make this payable as we are receiving the ether. Now inside of the emit, this is the event name itself. We are receiving the string as a receiver itself, just to discriminate between, like when we are seeing inside of the logs itself, how to get it discriminate. That was the reason behind it. This is the content I'm just trying to pass it, like where exactly, what exactly that the fallback or the receive is get a trigger. To get it identified that we are using this. I'll show you that when you are seeing the code, you can able to identify why we are using this string, what's the need of it. So this is the address which we are talking about, through which we are trying to transfer it. This is the value, how much ether we are trying to transfer it, and this is the last one, which we don't have any meaning over here itself. Like as we are in case of receive function, we are not receiving any data, then in that case the receive function will be blank over here itself. In case of fallback, we have like msg.data, but in case of receive we don't have anything like that. Now this is the last function which we are defining it over here itself. In this, what exactly the thing, like whatever the activity we are trying to get it perform it, this is the function name check balance. We make this as a public. We are not doing any changes, so that was the reason we are just retrieving the information about it, like whatever the balance we're trying to fetch it out. That's the reason we are using a view. And this is a return function. We're trying to return the value, like whatever that actual balance we have it, we try to get a return and pop up on our screen itself. That was the reason we are using a return, and that is an unsigned integer. Now we're talking about the return itself. So it's a same address. For this address, whatever the balance is it, this we have already discussed in our previous video itself. So whatever the address msg.sender, the contract address itself, like for that, what's the balance that to be get it, retrieve it back. Okay, that's all about the code. Now let me deploy this. I hope you are able to understand this. Let me deploy this. Deploy this. Okay, let me delete this first. Okay, let me deploy it once again. So once we deploy it, we can able to see check balance. Initially it's 0, everything is 0 as we are checking that balance. Okay, now what I have to do, I simply have to let me increase this, remove this, let me try to transfer 1 ether. Okay, so I'll simply have to use transact. Over here itself we have to go to the low level interaction itself and we have to click on transact. When we click on transact, we can see this is successful. So you might be having a wild guess, like if we are trying to transfer 1 ether, so what exactly, like what, like is it a fallback or is it a receive function is get it trigger? Like just think about it and then I'll just open it. So I hope you get the answer from your side, and now we'll go inside of it and we can see over here it's a receiver function. So why it's a receiver function? The reason is that as we are transferring only the ether, and when we are transferring only the ether, so the receiver is having a receive function having a first preference other than the fallback. Fallback can help over there itself if we don't have the receive function, but if we have the fallback and receive both in the same context, then in that case receive function having a priority for it. Okay, so you can see that these are the things we are trying to transfer it. So the receive function with the string, this is the address of the account itself. Now the value, like the 1 ether we trying to transfer, and data, nothing, a data is over there itself as we have no data to be getting received by the receive function itself. That was the reason it's 0. Now we are going to the next section for it, where I'll try to transfer 1 ether once again, and I'll try to put something over there itself as a low level interaction itself. I'll put 3434 and I'll click on the transact. This will work, and this time this will go inside of the fallback. Okay, so now in this case you can see our fallback is a string itself. This is the address from where we are getting it, this is the value, how much ether, and this is the data. So as we are talking about like the data and the ether both will go together, then in that case fallback function having a priority and the fallback function will work instead of the receive function. But if we are going only with the ether itself, not doing any data to be get transferred, then in that case the receive function will work. But if we are transferring both the things at the same time, then in that case the fallback will be working over there itself. So now we are doing a little bit tweak also. Let me comment this and compile the code once again for you. Let me delete this, compile this code, and let me deploy this. So if I try to go for 1 ether to be get a transfer, this will, let me do it once again, this is working fine. As you can see that receiver function, okay, as we have seen it. But if I'll try to transfer 1 ether, and if I'll try to transfer once again any value along with that, 3434, and if I'll try to transact it, this will not allow me. This will not allow me. Okay, the reason is bit clear about it, as we are not using a fallback. That was the reason behind it. It will not allow me. Go ahead further with that. So if we are using a fallback function over here itself, in this case, and let me compile this code once again, let me deploy it, let me delete this, I'll deploy that. Okay, this will deploy it. If I'll try to transfer 1 ether and make it over here itself 0x3434, and if I'll try to transact it, oh shit, sorry, it was a mistake from my side. I have to use a small x. This is for the hexadecimal itself. So let me try once again to get it, disable it once again. I'll just have to populate that error which I'm looking for it. So let me compile it once again, delete this, deploy this once again. Let me write 1 ether over here itself, and I'll try to transfer 3434, and let me click on transact. So this will mention it, fallback function is not defined. So it required the data and the ether both to be get a transfer in one shot. Then it required a fallback function inside of the contract. If it's not there, then in that case this action will not be successful. That's the reason behind it. You can transfer only the ether if you're using a receive function, but if you're using a fallback, you can do both the things at the same time. That was the actual concept behind it. What's the difference between whensoever we required a fallback and wheresoever we required the receive function? Everything is interrelated with that. Like as per the priority itself, we have to give the receive, but if we want both the things to be get a transfer, in that case fallback function is the best option for it. Okay, so it depends on it, like what type of things you're trying to get it make over there. It's on the basis of that you have to decide, like in a smart contract, how I can make the smart contract efficient as per need itself, and then try to code it according. These are the concepts which I'm trying to get it cover individually in each and every video itself, just to make you understand where exactly as per need. Like if I'm talking about, like if you're writing a code for the smart contract, if you're even not writing the code, if you're just inspecting or audit the smart contract which is deployed already in a production itself, and the organization want you to inspect that just to do the audit for the smart contract, then in that case these are the key things which we have to see it over there. It's just to overcome. Like optimization is also one of the things which is most important, other than just writing a code itself. So most of the person, just to fulfill the code, fulfill the task itself, they are writing a code and make that working for the client or for the organization itself. But I feel so making the stuffs to be working along with the optimization. Like if a code is small, it bit secure and bit relevant itself as per the need, then only that should be a perfect smart contract. Instead of that, you will make a number of things to be get utilized over there itself just to fulfill the need which you are required, and but unnecessary. By that way you are making the smart contract less efficient and less secure. So think about it from the auditor point of view. If you're writing a code or if you're inspecting the code of any smart contract, in that case make sure you have to having a keen eyes in all these sections for it, so that you can able to inspect it very well. What are the things is required? Like even I'm trying to learn it in the same section for it. I'm trying to see the code. When I'm seeing the code itself, I can able to analyze like these are the things which we require. Like understanding the functionality of the keyword, of the function, of the actual syntax itself is most important, but the need of the product is also most important. Like example, whatever the application which you're trying to get it achieve with a smart contract, make sure you should know the need of the organization, like what's the need to make this application. Then only you can visualize it on the basis of your keywords, like what exactly is required and what actually is created by the developers over there. Then you can visualize it and you can optimize it very well, instead of if you are seeing the code, don't have any information about the smart contract, going further with that just to trying to optimize it, remove the unwanted stuff, that's not feasible. So understand the application first, the purpose of the application, what the value add-on of that application when it's get deployed in the organization itself, and why they required that application in the organization. That's the most important. Like whenever I'm seeing any application, like even talking about the smart content or talking about any application, my first question is just to ask the app owner itself, like what's the need of this application. If this application is not present in your organization, like what exactly the bigger problem you're facing it, so they will tell me the actual need, why they required that application to be get deployed and have that in the organization. Then only you can able to understand what actually the purpose of it and why they are utilizing that. The integration and everything you can visualize it, like seeing the smart contract, seeing that actual flow diagram, everything you can try to visualize it. Then you can make that flow about it. Don't go with the code just to run it with any automated tool just to get the result about. No, if you're doing with that way, you can't get more things about it. Just to visualize is understand the purpose, you can able to understand more things about it of the smart contract or any application which you want to inspect it. Okay, so that's all about the stuffs. I have just covered few things other than my regular video itself, but I just wanted that to be get it covered in this video so that you are able to understand, like the purpose of these videos is not just to tell you about the coding itself, just to make you understand about it. How can you utilize those things in your in when you're performing any smart contract, any inspection for it. So you can, how can you utilize those things, use these videos, these concept about it, how can you use it in your day-to-day work itself. Try to see and visualize those smart contracts so that it's easy for you to visualize, instead of just seeing the code with a smart contract, just get the automated response with using any automated tool itself. Okay, so I hope you are able to understand this this concept of fallback and the receive. I'm coming back to the same topic once again, and if you want to provide some feedback, you can provide the feedback in the comment section of this video. And if you like this video, please subscribe my channel. Thank you so much once again. Take care. Bye bye.